You, yeah.
Okay,
I'm humbled and honored. I really am.
all right. We are calling to order the meeting of the Economic Development Commission, August 1st, 2024. It's 6:33. We have a simple agenda here today, and I am going to take a risk and say that I think we will be finished before
Oh, you
our 2 hours.
should never do that, John.
I know that, but I am a bold risk taker.
I rode my bike.
That's just the kind of guy I am. So I've discussed this with Dan, and he's promised not to undermine. Yeah. Yes. So after our normal administrative items, we have a marketing update that Greta is going to give. And then we have 2 topics to discuss. I'm going to switch the order under old business. An update from the temporary working groups for tourism. We'll start, Joe, with the food and food one, and then go through some of the others. And then I'd like to continue the discussion. We don't have to dwell on it, but I'd just like to continue, maybe bring to closure or see about the discussion we had last month about EDC priorities and how what the select board is asking each commission and board to do. And I just want to make sure that we're, I just like to talk about that a little bit. I don't know that we need to talk about it at length.
That's 2 hours.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, are there any citizen comments for the citizens who are here? And we do have citizens. Yeah, you're welcome to comment on, we usually take citizen comments up on the agenda items at the time we're talking about the agenda rather than upfront. So if you have something different, but you don't, a different topic, but you don't, so that's fine. Okay, let's start with a marketing update in Greta, and we're going to do this marketing update every month. I think it's important for us to just get a brief update. So Greta, go ahead.
Thank you. Are you able to share that slide I sent to you?
No.
Okay, I can.
Can you do
If
that?
you can,
Okay.
yeah, if you're able to
Yeah, hold on.
allow me access.
Vicky, are you a co-host? If not, I will give her. Here, hold on 1 second. I can do it from here. Okay, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry, but I completely forgot.
That's okay. Let's see here. Sorry, everyone. I am new to screen sharing, but I am happy to practice my skills.
We got it.
So here we go. This, can everyone kind of see that? Let me move it
That's it.
over a little bit.
That's perfect.
Good?
For
Okay,
us
great.
anyway.
So this is, it might look familiar layout wise from last month. We just want to give a couple high level things to think about, what we're working on, all that. So what you're going to see as far as the numbers are relating to what happened on the website and emails and everything from July. So we have 1,500 new opt-ins over the month of July for our email list. That's important to note because I think that I know that one of the things we thought might fall to the wayside going for a less expensive marketing budget this year was growing the email list. So the fact that we're having 1,500 new opt-ins per month is really exciting. And then the sessions continue to go up. So from 20,000 in June, we're at 36,000 in July. And the 95% of the site traffic continues to be organic search, which means someone typing in things like quaint villages in Vermont or specifically Woodstock, Vermont, or things like that. So we continue to get a lot of people finding us just by being curious and hearing about us from various places. And then also the direct means someone actually typing in woodstockvt.com. That is a much smaller number, but the fact that people, that's kind of how most of 95% of our site traffic is finding us is really great. So that means that people are wanting to find our site and that all we can do is provide them with a good experience once they get there. And then the top 2 blog posts from July were fun things to do in Woodstock this summer, which is a brand new blog that Jess and her team launched this past month. And that's important that it was one of the top 2 just because it is brand new. So people were really curious about that and excited to see what that content was. And then summer swimming holes, which is not surprising. That's one we've had for a while. It's a great blog post. But given the fantastic weather we had in July, it's not surprising. So we were glad that people were finding their way to that one as well. And then just going forward, we're really pivoting the content to highlight early fall trips and definitely really emphasizing midweek visits. That is something that a lot of the merchants are expressing, that midweek has continued to be a little bit slow, and we'd love to bump that kind of business up going forward until we hit the peak season. So that's definitely our main priority, and we're focusing on some marketing, some fun events that happen through early September. And aside from what's on this slide, we had a productive conversation with the chamber board this week, trying to reach some agreements on what we can do going forward and what our priorities are for our joint website. And so that's been important. We're moving forward on that. And with that being said, I would encourage everyone here on the call from the EDC board or community members to really engage with our website and get on there, poke around, see what kind of experience you have on it, give us really honest feedback, what you like, what you don't like. Also, we would love if you would sign up for the email list if you're not already on there. I think that's a really great way to see the work that the marketing group and Jess and her team, what we've been working on. There's no better way to kind of see the quality of what's happening. So I would say that. And then lastly, I'll just mention that Jess coordinated with the US News travel section. And you should all check out their latest blog, 23 Top Things to Do in Vermont in 2024. And so it's out of 23 things, Woodstock was the only thing that was its own town. So that was really great exposure for us. It featured talking about the Woodstock Inn, Billings Farm, and a few other things. And then in another section, it said explore the general stores of the state, and F.H. Gillingham's was the big picture of that section. And it went into the history of that family. And also notable, it featured Simon Pierce and Twin Farms. So it's some good press for our area.
Fantastic. Thanks, Greta. Any questions, comments?
What does she mean by Woodstock was the only town, individual town?
So the other item, so the blog post was 23 things to do in Vermont in 2024. And the other things would be like Von Trapp Family Lodge and things like that. We were the only item that was an actual town. Just it said, this place is worth visiting, just to really explore the town.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greta.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Great work.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's and you'll stop sharing.
Yes.
Let's turn towards the tourism, the groups that are thinking about the issues, the concerns that the community has about the impacts of tourism. And I realize, that we have. Let's just go through them and see where we are. If we have, I know that some of the groups have explicit ideas that they want to push forward. Some have examined ideas that they are not really enthusiastic about pushing forward because they don't think it's a great idea. And then some groups, I know the one that I'm involved in doesn't have any recommendations yet. So any of those outcomes are fine, but let's just run through. And to remind people, the 5 groups are food, which according to my list is Joe, and so helped by Stuart and possibly Susie Stoltz if she's involved, I'm not sure. Crowds, which is Deborah and Susie. Parking and bathrooms, which is Larry, Todd, and Jeffrey. Traffic and safety, which is me, Michael, and Jeffrey. And info/services, which is Marion and Beth. And again, it's okay if you want to pass, but let's just start with food, because I know that Joe and the group have done a lot of work.
Okay. Stuart Matthews and I have been working on this pretty extensively past couple of weeks. And for those of you who don't know Stuart Matthews, that gentleman right there You probably don't recognize him because you've never been here before. And he usually walking around about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning with 2 dogs and a red hat with holes in it, but that's true. Right there. I thought it might be good if we start with what we do know that will be operating over the summer and fall. So I thought it'd be good if we worked from the west end towards the center of town. I did not include Max, or what's called now Woodstock Family Market, and Maple Fields, or Cumbies. I thought that might be too far of a walk for anybody from the center of town, and it got rather a limited menu anyway. But starting that way, Soulfully Good will be open. Sante will be open. Montverde will be open, except for Thursdays. Mini Montverde will be open Thursday through Monday. And we have a license to operate the entire week if need be. And, you know, depending on how Sam feels about it, we might extend it beyond the Thursday to Monday opening times. Dr. Corbin's will be open. Scoops. I included Scoops because I know I think last year they had some sandwiches and some hot dogs and stuff, but it's mainly an ice cream shop. And I thought it should be included because it's cool to have an ice cream shop in town, right? Cool ice cream. Mm-hmm. So I included them in this list. I also included the butcher shop, even though there's been a lot of discussion in the past about them not opening on Sunday and Monday. Alex does a great job. That's a great face for the town. He is open on Friday and Saturday, and those are heavy days, and they do a good job with it. So I wanted to include them too. So if you total them all up, there's 7 venues, not including Scoops, that will be operating most of the week. And some of the times that one store is open, like we're closed, Montverde is closed on Thursdays, but there's always an overlap. The Mini will be open. There'll be other stores. Soulfully Good will be open. And like I mentioned, the butcher shop will be closed Sunday and Monday, but other places will be open. So that's what we know we can start with, and that's where we are right now. Now, what are possible? Well, Stuart and I have been working on the idea of different locations that could be possible for other venues to open up. One location would be in the Mechanic Street parking area, right in front of the chamber, if that was possible. But that would take up 3 or 4 parking spaces to put anything there, and a food truck or a catering service of any kind. So it's going to eat up 3 or 4 parking spaces. And that time of year, parking is really at a premium. You know, you need every spot you can get. So, but that's a possibility. The other possibility is the Gore. But Stuart has been working with Sponge Bakes. And I think, Stuart, you said something that they might expand their business out to the Gore. Yeah, during that period of time.
Expand sandwich offerings, so have fast sandwich offerings.
Yeah.
Tables out for there would be a seating area there, so that would be an option to really use this question.
So, you know, that's a location that can be used effectively. The other idea we've been working on a lot of is the alley, the Mechanic Street alley. Now, what we were thinking about and what we're talking about is closing off the alley on the Central Street side, putting up horses, getting a food truck or some food venue in the middle of the alley. And it had to be kind of more towards the front because the width of the alley varies from 12 to 16 feet, depending on what spot in the alley you measure. But if we put a food truck or some type of venue against the west wall, that's the wall that I think it's what the clothing store is on, right? Then and we use the 16-foot portion of that alley. Then we've got, I don't know, anywhere, depending on what type of activity that goes in there, you've got about 6 or 8 feet between the end of that, either be a truck or a catering service, and the next wall. People could stand there, order food. And then we thought we could put up tables, chairs on both ends of this venue, close it off, and dress it up some with, I know, maybe some planted pots, maybe, you know, we could string some lights up or something like that and use that. And one of the main benefits, I think, of that is, well, as a couple, first of all, it's right next to us. People are gonna see it, you know, you're gonna trip over it walking down Central Street. Secondly, it doesn't consume any parking spaces. All those parking spaces will be accessible to anybody. I have one in behind the chamber office, and you can access that from the backside, which I do all the time. So it won't be an inconvenience, much maybe a little for some people, but not really. And all those parking spaces will still remain available, which I think is a big thing. And I think that's something that, you know, we have to get permission from the trustees. It's something I think that they're gonna ask about and be concerned about, you know. And that would give it a plus. What Stuart and I did yesterday, we met with a gentleman, Brett Black. He has an operation called Sustainable Eats. I know Stuart, I was very impressed with the guy. I mean, the guy's a pro. He's been in the restaurant business prior to this food truck venture he's on right now. They are what they say they are. They use food and other products from local people. All their products and all their paper goods and stuff is compostable. So they are what their name says. And we looked at the menu. I liked it. I think Stuart did too. They're the real deal. I mean, you know, and he wants to be here. He wants to come here. He wants to do it. I don't think he's available as much as we'd like him to be, but I think it's a good start. Let me see if I skipped anything here. No, everything compostable. Stuart spoke with the chair of the trustees. We're gonna have to go before them for any kind of permitting. And she is on vacation right now. We'll be back on the 7th. That's it. And we have a meeting with her on the 8th. Stuart has already got us on the agenda for the next trustees meeting. So, and we'll have a presentation ready for them. I think you, John, and Stuart spoke with Zoe from Au Comptoir, and there's a possibility that she may set up a venue between the building, I think is what you said to me, and the trash thing she's got set up there. That'd be great if that could happen.
So we'd have 2 vendors for the
Right
same
there.
set of tables.
Right. And you know, I think one of the side benefits is that we have been talking a lot about, you know, at some time in the future, really developing that marketplace area, you know, Mechanic Street Market area, and really make it something significant and important to the town. I think this might give us a sense of what we might need or not need in the future, and give us a sense of what, you know, how this would really work instead of, and learn a lot from it, you know, for any other future ventures we like to do back there. So, go ahead.
Can you just go to the, sorry, it was just the microphone is there, so.
What we were doing is focusing initially just on September and October generally.
Yeah.
And on the first 2 to 3 weeks in October specifically, because that's the busiest period, and then on Sunday and Monday, because those are the days within that period, within those months that are the busiest. We've reached out to a ton of people. These ones that Joe mentioned are the 3 that have been most responsive. But if there's others who listen to this, if there's others who you're aware of, we would love to explore it. This food truck can't do it every day. We probably have a need every day. So we're trying to patch together a enhanced offering, just really to have more volume of food service, particularly at lunch, conceivably at dinner, but particularly at lunch. So anybody that you hear about or people know about, we would love to talk to. But these are the 3 that are the most viable at this point. There are other people that are interested but are not structured to, if they don't have the food service equipment to come and set up for a day. So conceivably, if this works, maybe in the future we have a permanent setup that people can move into and move out of. That might be something. But if they don't have it, it's hard for them to come and set up for one lunch. It's not that appealing. So we're learning as we go.
I think it's important to note that we may have more than 8, but we have 7 or 8 venues that are going to be available that we haven't had before in the past. And that's a huge jump from what it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I feel good about that, and having these extra folks pop in, and maybe the Sustainable East and Zoe's Place, and and Funded Bakes expanding a little bit. It's really gonna, I think, put a good face on Woodstock for this season. I'm kind of excited about it.
Great, thank you.
Any questions?
There's one other thing that we should add, John. And if we were to do this, if we're fortunate enough that these people do come, we will have to figure out a way to have more seating, because they're all, pick up. They're not places we can sit. So, related to this effort would be something around getting perhaps funding from the EDC or from some other organization to get tables and, sufficient tables and things like that to place wherever we decide to put them. That's sort of a secondary issue, but the funding will be required both to have the tables physically, and then there's a certain amount of housekeeping that's required to keep them clean and cared for during the day. Because they're really, when you look at the daily numbers of visitors, it really does ramp up significantly. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I wanted to follow up this was to talk about this, and I believe my comments here are very tangible for the food initiative, but they really relate to all of these possible initiatives that might come out of the EDC. At the last meeting, we talked about the kind of fundamental concept of the EDC being more of a funding vehicle than an operating entity. I think no one disagreed, since we are in fact not an operating entity, that we shouldn't try to be one. The food initiative is a perfect example where we shouldn't be the operator, and we can't be alone, because the village has to approve anything that we would do. So what I hope will come out of this initiative at our next EDC meeting, which is I think September 3rd or 4th, first Thursday in September, is a proposal from this group where the trustees have said, yes, this is where we want to do it. And we understand that you have a commitment from food truck and Zoe, let's say, or whatever you come up with. And these are the days in which we want to do it. And what we need is what I'm going to call the food infrastructure. We will run this. We will give permits for it. We will, whatever running needs to be done, they will manage it. But
what do you mean by we will run it?
But we, the trustees.
Oh, the
trustees knows if David Green needs, we will make sure that David Green goes through and checks that the fire is okay. But what we need the EDC to do is to fund the following, and I'm going to call that food infrastructure.
Okay.
Tables, umbrellas, 3 garbage cans, recycling bins. Well, the tables, the picnic tables, yeah. So they'd have the seating, and if you request it, the following level of staffing for, a person to clean up at the beginning and the end of the day, or a person to be there the whole time, or something, whatever. I'm not saying you do. I'm just laying out all the things that you might do, and you might ask for less than that. My guess is, just having run some very rough numbers in my head, is that could be on the order of $10,000 for 3 weeks of coverage and enough tables and so forth, 15 tables and so forth. I'm not telling you to propose this. I'm just kind of giving, it's not 1,000 and it's not 100,000.
Yeah,
And so the reason why I'm raising this with a real number is I want to get a sense, not a vote, but I just want to get a rough sense from the EDC so that you can tell the trustees, because for sure they'll care about parking and they'll care about the permits and stuff, but they're also going to care about the money. We know that. So I just like to be able to say to them, if you ask for $10,000 for reasonable things, we are going to have to debate it till the end of time, or which we would be very comfortable, or something in between. So if you want to make a brief comment, and then I'd just like to get quick input.
I think Stuart, I think that's something you and I can kind of work out a budget for.
I'm suggesting,
No, but what I would say two things. One is, I think one thing is the EDC should decide how extensive they want, how extensive support they want to provide.
Right.
That's thing one. Thing two is the timing is a little bit worrisome.
Yeah.
If we're asking these vendors to be prepared from the 1st of September, at least from the food truck standpoint. Now,
okay, I didn't realize.
we don't need to, we could push that back, but if
We and the trustees both, sorry, because it will need to be the select board. The trustees will have to approve the idea. We will have to
Approve the money.
approve the money, and then the select board will have to approve the money.
Okay.
You tell us what the timing is that you need, not now, but
Yeah.
whenever. We can call a short special meeting to address this. I just want to start this month
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So that you know what
John,
our feelings are.
when is the next select board?
Well, the select board meeting can't happen until the next EDC meeting is the first Thursday in September.
Right.
We can have an earlier one.
Sure, but when is the next select board?
Oh, I don't know. It's every 2 weeks.
Is it August 20th?
Yeah. But the trustees can't, the select board can't do anything without the.
Yeah.
So let me just go around just briefly without, depending on the quality of the proposal, what they're asking for and so forth. If it was in the order of $10,000 for this September, October, for just the effort that you've heard described, how do you feel? Sort of yay, nay, or you're not sure?
Yes, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Larry? Yes, Deborah? Yes, where did Greta go?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I feel positively about that.
Okay, and so do I. All right. Before we just finish this, I think Jeffrey, I just noticed, has his hand up. So Jeffrey, sorry, do you want to make a quick comment?
Yeah, I think your concept is great. And I just wanted to say that we have some other folks who are interested in serving food, especially on Monday and Tuesday, on Sunday and Monday. They would be on the green in tents. And they'll be appearing before the trustees on the 13th, at least one of them, and we have possibly two. Also, the trustees had previously approved space for a food truck in front of the library on the road. And that group has backed out because they didn't get their truck together. However, and I think that indicates that we'd be willing to put a truck there. And I think that might be a good place for what Joe is talking about. I don't like the idea of blocking the access to the Mechanic Street parking lot for the public. Because the only other way in is very roundabout, not obvious to visitors. But anyway, I just wanted to comment and say that's another possibility there. And I look forward to you coming to the trustees. We want to support this, I'm sure, in some manner.
May I ask, what truck is planned to be in front of the library?
Well, they backed out. It was an Indian food truck, and they didn't get their truck together. But I'm saying that could be replaced by somebody else's food truck at this point.
Yeah.
All right, so no, we don't.
I have a feeling about that.
Well, no, what I was going to say is it okay if you guys work this out? Work out the best proposal. Talk to Jeff. We're not going to.
Okay.
I think it's your job to come up with what you think is best,
Yeah.
taking all these things into account. And
Right.
I think what you're hearing from the rest of us is we like the idea, and
Right.
if the infrastructure that you and the vendors will need to make this happen is on the order of $10,000, hopefully less, but then this is the kind of thing that the EDC would support if that's necessary to make this happen. Right.
That's all we do.
And then give us understanding that these are special meetings if the timing that I described of the regular meetings won't work, because that you really won't get it approved until mid-September, you know, without special meetings. So either do that, or if you need it faster, let us know as soon as you know, so we can set up the special meetings. It's not hard to do. I mean,
Sure,
but, you know,
sure.
okay, are you?
Yeah, that's
comfortable with
great,
that?
great. Yeah, works.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, so we have, I think, also some very good research, but not the same outcome with the parking and with the parking, at least the parking and bathrooms, but this is on the subject of parking, I think. So Larry, Todd, and Jeffrey have worked on some of the parking issues, and I don't know who is going to speak for you. Todd is not here. Jeffrey, do you or Larry? Larry unmuted himself.
Yeah, I can speak to it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the possible solutions to the parking problem during peak times was to resurrect the idea of a trolley or some sort of transportation from more remote. I shouldn't use the word remote, but not downtown parking areas such as the East End, the Masonic Hall, the high school, and at times perhaps behind the elementary school, we got there's an outfit in Lebanon that just bought up several van and limousine companies. It's now called Door to Door. And they have given us a price. Just we just sort of selected a random a date in the middle of October, and this would be a price for a 14-passenger van with a driver on a daily basis of $1,050 a day. John, I guess you came up with 18 days being the high end period. So it would require I don't think we would be the operating entity of this thing. It would require a lot of signage, a lot of you're going to have to attract the people going through town to tell them they've got free parking and how they're going to get in and around. So there's a fair amount of that issue. I'm not good at proselytizing about this one because I'm not sure of it at all. That seems like a fair amount of money. John, you looked up the survey, and we had 8 visitors mentioning this as a problem out of a survey of 120. So, and I'm thinking it is more of a visitor issue. I don't know, and I don't know if there's a way to know other than your own visceral sense that local people are going to want to park outside of downtown when they want to come in and shop or get the mail or do whatever they want to. And this I don't know, John, if you're going to talk about your other concept for residents, but
I will very briefly, but let's just,
okay.
they're really separate, so let's just keep this.
So if this sounds familiar, Beth can tell you, we did this in 2012. I don't say we, I didn't have anything to do with it. It was I talked to Peter Gordon at the Three Rivers Planning Commission. He was, I guess, the operator of this, or the one who pushed it. It was a demo project. They got a federal grant. Advanced Transit was involved. I'm reading from notes that I made. They had an electric trolley. We're not talking about a trolley right now. We're talking about some sort of test vehicle, which would be mainly like a 14-passenger thing. It was Green Mountain Power Partnership. It was an electric vehicle. Peter Welch came down and made a big speech about it. The underlying thing from Peter was that they made a big deal out of it. And they ran it from Memorial Day through Columbus Day. And he said the ridership was not there. There wasn't much interest at all. It was every once in a while people would get on it with their kids and have fun that way, but that it was very disappointing, the number of people that actually took advantage of it. Obviously, that was 2012. That's 12 years ago. I don't know how well, the signage was there. But it kind of, well, I'll throw in that it kind of is consistent with my gut reaction, which is that that's a lot of money we could try it, but I don't feel confident in it. So John suggested that I don't know if I fairly outlined it, but with that that we get a sense of what the commission feels about pursuing it. My sense would be that if Jeffrey's on our subcommittee, and if he felt so inclined and the commission thought it was a good idea for him to go to the trustees, lay out these possibilities, talk about a possible way of implementing it, and seeing whether they even have an interest in are pursuing it and helping them put together a grant request. There's a lot of detail work to be done and I don't think our subcommittee or the EDC is really going to be involved in putting up signs and doing all that kind of thing. But so the trustees would have to be very involved, and of course the select board has to agree.
Would it be correct? Wouldn't it be correct to say that none of the three of you on the committee is sufficiently convinced that you would recommend this to the EDC?
Well, let Jeffrey answer that for himself.
That would be correct for me. I think it's a very difficult proposition, and the high school lot could serve for people coming in from the west, but that would leave out people from the east, and that somewhat expensive van would only go to these two locations, the drop-off point and then back to the pickup point. So the signage to get people to stop and not go further and understand to park there would be a big deal. To get them to big signs that say free parking, pull in here, shuttle. It might work, but it would only work from that direction, in my opinion. I don't think coming from the east, it would work as well. So I don't know. It seems like a very tough proposition to me.
So I think that we've been using the phrase parking. We've been using parking as a one-word problem, which is parking. And I think what we should have done is talk about visitor parking and resident parking, which I think have almost nothing to do with each other. And so this is an assessment of a visitor parking idea, which I was very enthusiastic about the idea, and this group investigated it.
The idea of a trolley?
The idea of solving the visitor parking problem. And I think what the committee has, what I've heard from Jeffrey and Larry and Todd a little bit less, but I don't think he would disagree, is that we're not sure we really have a problem. And we did a survey, there were 120 people, 8 people said that they had a problem parking. Let's move on to some other problems.
By the way, John, it's very different than the trolley idea, which the trolley was running around within the village, back and forth. It wasn't a pick up and drop off thing.
Right. The trolley was a new service kind of that would.
If I remember correctly, trolley was more of a sightseeing.
Yeah,
service.
right,
It wasn't-
exactly.
Correct.
Cute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's also not this, it's also not the same single point problem that we have on Wassel, where the trolley is actually effective. So does anyone on the EDC want to instruct this subgroup to continue investigating what they recommend we do not? I'm not trying to put my thumb too obviously on the scale, but there you have it. Okay, so Larry and Jeff and you can, and with Todd, you can resurrect this if your opinions change, but otherwise we'll leave that issue aside. Thank you for investigating.
I have a question. It was suggested that, on the east end of town, across the street from the Masonic Temple, there's free parking available, but there were never any parking spots outlined. Has that been addressed at all? Does anybody know? Jeff, do you know, being on the trustees?
Jeff is still
do-
on. He's just.
I do not know, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that'd be allowed. They haven't been asked by the trustees. So that's a
Okay.
good question. How available is that spot legally to anybody?
Well,
And
from
Beth might know.
From my conversations with the town manager, it just requires a heads up from the state, and that they would paint the squares as soon as the state said it was okay. That's what I heard.
Jeff?
I had written to Eric about those spaces. I think there might be 6 to 8. And people do
what?
park there and ask them to stripe them. And I never heard back from Eric.
Are you
so-
talking about the Pleasant Street spaces right on Route
Pleasant Street,
4?
Yeah.
yes, I am, right across
Oh.
from the Masonic Temple.
That's getting striped.
It
That's
is.
That will
what?
be, it's on the plan to be striped.
Perfect.
That's,
Oh, wow,
that is
good.
happening. That is
Good.
happening. Yes.
Cool.
Okay, I just want to get the pulse of the EDC on a very small possible initiative. Complicated, and so not really to be presented today other than at a theoretical level. But I want to get your feedback on a possible initiative to address the local resident parking issue. Unlike the visitor survey, in which there were 120 visitors and 8 of them said there was a problem, 47% of the 350 local residents who responded to our tourism survey said that they had problems parking on a daily or a weekly basis, at least during peak period. Some of them actually said year round, but we're not going to address that. So we have, unlike the visitor problem where we probably don't have much of a problem, or we may not. This was the largest single concern that people had about the effects of tourism.
John, could I ask, what was the problem?
The problem is that the
There were
problem,
meters, or there wasn't anything available?
they feel like they had difficulty parking. That was the question.
That was it.
So presumably it took them a long time.
Bothered rating high on that one too, because we had.
Yeah, this is a problem. I think you can't dismiss I should say that people feel it's a problem.
Right.
The
But
number,
they didn't identify specifically what the problem was. Like there weren't enough spots, or
they
the
said they
meters, or,
had a problem and they said they were bothered by it.
okay,
Yeah, so.
okay,
The comments, if I remember them, had to do with finding, there were comments about the meters, the whatever.
yeah.
But the problem was about finding.
Finding a
places.
spot.
So interestingly, like our overall parking problem, a parking capacity problem, we are not short of parking spaces in the town. We have hundreds of empty spaces at peak periods. They're just not in the center of town. It turns out that on a smaller scale, the same thing is actually true for parking spaces in the center of town. There are empty parking spaces during peak most of the time in the center of town. They're just not accessible because they're rented to people full time. And so in particular, behind the History Center and behind the Welcome Center, between those places, there are 44 parking spaces. In the last week, I went and checked 3 times at 3 different times during the day, including a weekend day. And there were, 15 to 20 of those spaces were empty. Now, I'm not suggesting that we take the spaces away from the people who own them,
Good.
but it may be possible to get people who know that they're not going to be there to let someone else park there and earn some revenue for it. The same way someone who has a car, that drives it, you don't have, same way that, you share your second home, or you use Uber to share your house, a shared where you're taking a fixed asset, in this case, a parking space, and utilizing it more. If we were to run a test of that, the time to do it would be in the time that we would run, the same period of time, September and October. Maybe we only run a test for a week to try it out. If we were to do that, there would be very, very little financial cost. I think the only cost would likely be signage, which would be much more limited than the other thing. We're not putting up signs on Route 4 or anything. And possibly some staff costs to inspect.
John, what would you be specifically testing?
I'm not prepared to say what we would be specifically testing. What I would like to know is if there were a proposal to test a process that would allow residents, and only local residents, to say, okay, for this 1 week period, I can call up, or I can go on a website, or I can somehow, again, I have some ideas, but I'm not ready to share them. I can, for up to 90 minutes, I can get a spot right in the center of town for 90 minutes on Thursday, because I know I need to go shopping on Thursday, or I need to get my hair cut or whatever. If there were a request for $500 for signage for an idea that you felt worked, and by the way, that is going to be, I think, the challenge. The spaces are going to be empty. People may not want to do it, but if they do want to do it, the challenge is going to be operating it. And I haven't figured all that out yet. But I would, again, just like your feedback on whether or not that's the kind of initiative that we would support. The reason for supporting it, I think, the reason for trying it is to show the community that we're trying. And I don't just mean let's just try it and not care about the outcome. I think this is something that people are concerned about. There's not an obvious solution that doesn't involve building more spaces, which I think is nearly impossible. I don't want to say impossible. And this doesn't require building any new spaces. The spaces are there and they are empty. They just have to be managed. So does anyone, again, I'll come back when I'm ready to say this is an idea that I think is doable. The ideas that I've got so far, I'm not sure are doable. That's why I don't want to, explain it yet. So I'm not going to come forward unless I think there's an idea that's doable. So, I mean, again, I know it's a small amount of money, but do people, any feelings about this idea? Again, it would come at the next month. We wouldn't need a special meeting for it. Timing of it would work out.
I think it's with all your caveats, which are like,
Yeah.
it seems hard to manage, but if you figure out how to manage it,
Right.
it's like,
But it wouldn't be us that manage it.
Yeah.
It would need to be, the trustees would need to say, we can manage this.
Right. I mean,
I'm not sure we can.
Feasibility of,
I understand.
but yeah, if you figure out.
Yeah, I feel,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Dan.
I feel the same way. Like years ago, people would have said Airbnb and Uber were stupid,
Yeah.
right? And now look at what's going on. And so I think for me, same, if there were an easy way to execute it,
Right.
it's a great way to take advantage of capacity that would
Right.
go unused.
Did you want to say?
I have to see it.
So would I.
Yeah.
Deborah or Larry or you want to add anything, or Greta?
No, that you guys have said it all. I mean, it's about application. It'd be very cool to see how you come up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry, you want to add anything, or Greta?
I think it's a great concept. Obviously, devil's in the details, but
Yeah.
I'll bet you've got some solutions.
Okay.
Nothing to add from me.
Okay. All right. So we'll continue to work on it. I may or may not come back to the group with that. So, okay. All right. Marion, anything about info?
You can, I will pass.
Okay.
I mean, we've been in summer mode. I apologize.
Okay. Oh, Michael. Michael was the one who said I think he couldn't make it. Michael, you're not here, right? I don't see you on the list.
Michael, what
Michael
about
Green.
Michael?
No, he's the other EDC. Sorry. The next group is traffic/safety, and Michael and I and Jeffrey are supposed to do that, and we don't have anything new to report. And then what about bathrooms? Sorry, Jeffrey and Larry, there was some discussion about bathrooms as well. That was your group as well. Is there anything to report on that? I know the town is taking an initiative there, but
Well, the trustees we're having a bit of a problem figuring out where to locate porta potties. We're trying to figure that out right now. Previously, we did it behind the courthouse. And now, since the court in White River is moving into the courthouse in Woodstock, and they are leasing the back spaces from the village.
Right.
So we're not sure we can put it there. And so that's still up in the air, and we're working on it. But we definitely have a need. If anyone has ideas where we should put them, other than that location, which did work, we're open to it. When we even broached the idea of putting it on the far end of the green, there was uproar. So
So, yeah, summer mode and new stuff mode. But as far as crowds are concerned, the idea was to have something where there is parking, food, and bathrooms in one location on the East End. And so there's still work that's happening with Jeff looking into that. So we're not ready to show everything. And also because the select board has taken up some of this, it may just be that we give them all of our research and be like, this is as far as we got. If you guys are doing it, here you go. But that was the idea about crowds, about, having a location where you're really getting those needs met all in one location. But
I have a question about this.
Okay, Joe?
Well, am I to understand that the bathrooms at the chamber office have not been able to handle the traffic? Is that why we're discussing this?
yeah,
Is that the case? I mean,
well,
they just.
there are times. Yes, there are
Is that true,
times.
Beth?
I
Beth?
mean, I would say there has historically been one day, perhaps Columbus Day, that there are 1,000 people. I think John has looked at those.
Yeah.
I mean, there are on rare occasion lines, but again, that's a 2-week period when there are 6 buses in town at the same time.
Yeah. So
and
does that
so-
require us looking into more porta potties or whatever you want to use? I don't hear anybody saying anything.
I don't know. I like you say, Beth, about the lines are only at specific times. I think it has to do with the experience of being in town, just like having trouble finding food, having trouble finding a bathroom. That if you're ever in those stores, the amount of people that come in desperate for a bathroom, and when they leave, I don't know where they find it, because you direct them down to you, but I don't know if they, everybody finds it. It's an experience that we've heard over and over again, that people are not, are having a bad experience in Woodstock, having to do with food and having to do with finding bathrooms. So I don't think it's about capacity necessarily as it is about convenience.
Well, or signage or information.
Right, I wanted to speak, it's being the second store from where buses are let off, it's constant. And we need to have more bathrooms available. We cannot go without additional bathrooms during that 3 weeks. It just doesn't serve us well to tell people to wait in line at the chamber. We need to find an additional place for the bathrooms to be. It's not fair to the people waiting to go to the bathroom, and it's not fair for the vendors or the storekeepers in the village to say, here's your bathroom, this is where you need to go. We need to make sure that we have enough facilities to provide a bathroom without having to have the store owners or employees telling people where the bathrooms are.
Well, signage, signage could be, signage and little information cards. It's the same thing about, on one side I could say where the restrooms are, the other side I could say who's open for lunch.
Right, and it's important. We should not, speaking as a Danforth employee, I should not be telling 20 people where the bathroom is. In the course of my work, it should be available and known immediately when they get off their bus or whenever it's not up to the vendors or the storekeepers to make that known regularly.
Well,
So
again,
there
I-
has to be an availability. There has to be an
That being the case-
availability.
That being the case, I think what you're suggesting is putting the bathrooms right on Central Street. I mean, if we do get porta potties, they're gonna be tucked away someplace. Like, for example, the courthouse, which won't accommodate them now, but I mean, there's not gonna be clear visible space of, oh, there's a bathroom or there's a porta potty. It's gonna be tucked in some corner that nobody else is really gonna notice it.
Deborah?
I don't know where my raising hand went. Is it still available? I can't find it on my Zoom for some reason. It's a new thing. Okay.
Reactions.
It's under reactions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
There
reactions have
we
been.
go. Okay, it changed around a little. Thank you, Beth. When I was talking about cross guards, at one point, I was thinking that that's kind of like a multi-purpose, you know, people get off the bus or stand there and we are also able to assist people. They can have pieces of paper that come from the communication team that have exactly what you're talking about, you know, because you're going to have a minute to stand there and they're going to ask the crosswalk person rather than the store, you know, the store employees like, oh, okay, now where do I go and blah, blah, blah. And they could be like, here. Okay, now cross the street. You know, I mean, it can all be kind of potentially could be together.
So,
But
Marion,
that's not what's currently happening. And we have less than 8 weeks to solve this problem. So I think it's really important to discuss a separate facility for bathroom needs. Because to me, the most important thing that's going to happen right now is additional bathrooms. And that's 8 weeks away. It's not, you know, it's not 6 months from now. It is now. And sorry, that's all my comment is. You don't have much time to decide where to put extra bathrooms.
Well, I think what Beth is saying is that there is very rarely lines for the bathrooms. Then what you were
That's exactly
saying
what you said.
is that we have the bathroom capacity. It's just nobody knows
Where the hell they are.
where they are, understandably.
Yeah.
And the employees shouldn't have to be dealing with it all day long.
Right,
I
and the
mean,
employees, right, exactly, right.
So
So can I just?
I'm sorry. I was just putting forward something that helps with the crowds as well as helps with direction, so it's not left to you know,
Right.
Danforth or anybody
Could
else.
Marion, could I make a suggestion that
Yeah.
even though that, you know, this is something that could be done in time, could you pick 2 random people to act as sounding boards?
Yeah.
And simply come up with a laminated card, let's just try it out this year. And on one side, it has the location of restaurants, and the other side, it has the location of bathrooms, or whatever you design.
I work.
Okay, because the other thought I was having just as we were talking was, we could, you know, I could talk to Greta about doing some very simple, like, what do you need to know? You know, like,
Yeah.
you get lunch and where are their bathrooms, and you do
Yep.
QR codes that we provide to all the businesses in
Yeah.
town, that way it can
Well,
change.
I guess what I'm thinking is that if you could come back with a request for funding, which
Yeah.
will be in the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the early September meeting, and be ready to pull the plug so that we can print them and have them available.
Yeah.
Or print them or whatever, have them available 3 or 4 days later.
Anything printed.
Right, and not laminated, things you can pass out.
Whatever the solution is, if you could just do
Yeah.
that in the next month and present it so that, and don't worry about it don't let the perfect be
Yeah.
the enemy of the good.
We'll
We'll do something different next year.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and Beth has.
Beth, go ahead.
I just wanted to say 2 things. One is that there are directions on the little shed that you can take with you to the restrooms. So there are pieces of paper in the little container that people can grab and go. The second is that when we did have our meeting for information, and we've only met maybe, I think we met twice, but I missed one of them. So, was the question about state signs,
Yeah.
and you've seen those before.
State?
You know, that there are the signs that say where, you know, the state signs that are about 3 by, I don't know, 3x24 that are owned by the state that say, that have a picture of restrooms and
So that
you know,
people would see
with
them as
the-
they drive in from both sides of town.
yeah, driving signs.
Well, so why don't you,
But this is an easy shortcut.
yeah, why don't you consider that, but not at the expense of
Understood.
little cars or something?
Let's find a short.
Because we know we can do that.
Yep.
And so, you know, because it may be that we need an act of Congress to place an extra bathroom sign on Route 4.
No, there's something that you buy. I mean, they're like $75. They're not even
Right.
really expensive.
Explore it, but not at the expense.
I will make,
Yep.
I will take these bathroom things that we have at the little booth, and I will
Yeah.
rework them and get them to the shops at least. I mean, I'm happy to do that part right now.
Well, why don't we just have a quick, like, in the next couple of days, if you're available, we can hop on either an
Yeah,
in-person or a
happily.
Zoom meeting with, you know, you and me and whoever else is available, just so we can come up with a plan.
Right.
Yep.
Perfect. That's great. It's great to know that exists. Obviously, I think we can observe from the comments and from that having them just in that basket
Right.
isn't sufficient. So it's
Yeah.
good, but not sufficient. So maybe we, yeah, no. Yeah. No. She's saying that it's in the little house on the green, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. But nobody knows to go to, anyway, yeah.
Okay, we've got it.
All right, thank you. Okay. Our last item on
Hey,
the,
John?
yes,
John,
Larry, go ahead.
can I have one quick suggestion. Why don't we have like a freestanding sign on both sides of the alleyway out on the sidewalk with a saying restrooms with an arrow?
Yes.
It seems
Well,
like
I was gonna
that'd be the
suggest put one of
simplest.
those signs.
Sandwich
I
board.
put it right on the wall, on the alley, headed towards the.
Not the
chamber.
wall, no, put it right in the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Like a sandwich
that
board.
might be a good idea too, Larry, sure.
All right, so.
There are 4 signs on the walls on the alley.
Don't work
2
though.
on each side, 1 small, 1 much larger.
Right,
Do they
they
work?
obviously don't work.
Clearly not.
Right. So I guess maybe the objective, just to sum up, is whatever you think
We can
can be
do,
done quickly and, right, whatever can be done quickly.
be done.
Right, exactly.
It can be done.
And then we'll try it out, we'll do our best and we'll learn from it and,
Good.
okay. The last topic has to do with our priorities. And I just want to make sure that I know the pulse of the group so that I schedule the agendas and, you know, and direct us to put effort into or not put effort into something. So at the last meeting, so first of all, let me just share one slide. Yeah, hold on one second, sorry. So this is I presented this last time in a slightly different version, but the same words. And this is, unfortunately, this is new. Because I'll take the blame for it, was not aware of these, not motions, what are they called? What do we pass when we go to town meeting? Anyway, the rules, when the town votes on something, it's like
Yeah.
the articles. I was not aware of 2 of the 3 articles that were passed in 2015. The first article created the Economic Development Commission. The second article created the options tax, and the third article said that the options tax should be put into a reserve fund for economic and community development. I only knew about the third one, and I found out a month or 2 ago that there were the first 2. So these are actually.
There's 4 up there, John.
No. These are from those 3 motions. These are now the words that the voters voted on.
Okay.
Our purpose, there were 3 motions, and in 2 of them referred to the purpose. Our purpose is to invest in the future, health and prosperity of the town of Woodstock, and to fund economic and community development. And the way we were supposed to achieve those purposes is by doing 2 things: promoting the town to potential visitors, residents, and businesses, and funding special projects that benefit the community. That presumably benefit the community by investing in the future health and prosperity of funding economic and community development. So we didn't make any mistakes, but we've been focused on the 5 words in the upper right-hand corner, which I have been saying over and over again was the only direction that we were given. Not that we've been given all that much more.
On economic and community development.
Those are the 5 words that I've been talking about. That's what that's what the voters did. They told us to do those 5 words. And so we've set up our priorities to do those 5 words. In fact, there's more than 5 words. There's not a lot more than 5 words, but these are now the words. And I think that when we look at our priorities, we are faithfully doing this new expanded set of words. I think we can but I want to, right, so the first thing I'm saying is absent any initiative by any of you, and Larry, I'll get to you. Did you mean to raise your hand? I'll get to you in a second. Absent any initiative by the rest of you, I'm going to assess that that you are all as comfortable as I am, that our priorities are in fact directed at this set of words. So, and we don't have to discuss it, and in fact, I will stop the discussion to make sure that we finish before 8:30 so that I don't lose my statement at the beginning. But I would like to make sure the select board is going to be interested in what every board and commission does. I think they will be particularly interested in what we do because we're the only board and commission that has money. And money over the next couple of years is going to be an increasing target by the select board, as it should be, in order to try to figure out how to pay for things. These purposes are what the voters said. And so the funds can't be redirected to some other purpose without the voters saying so. But the words are also pretty broad. So I think you could say that it's investing in the future health and prosperity of the town of Woodstock to pay for the new sewer system, or to pay for the new water company, or to pay for the high school, or to pay for the sidewalks, whatever. So I want to make sure that
that's always been the problem, John. I mean,
well,
from the beginning, too many people had too wide a net of what we're supposed to be doing.
Understand?
Yeah.
I think we're not in any worse boat. We have some more words, which is good. For example, I think promoting the town to potential visitors, residents, and business, that is an explicit objective or a goal of the use of these funds.
Yeah.
So, so in any event, I'm comfortable that these words don't call for us to change our priorities.
Oh,
and
that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at the last meeting, you all felt that there wasn't, separate from what the words tell us, that there isn't really a need, that you're comfortable with the 5 priorities that we have. And so I just want to make sure that that is.
Well, speaking for myself, John, the thing that most struck me from the last meeting was you unveiling the word future. That's what hit me right between the eyes. When you exposed that word to us, to me specifically, because I'll speak for myself, that went bang, that's it. That's what we're all about.
If you had to pick one word.
That's what we are all about here.
I agree. I agree. Larry, I can't tell if your hand is still up or not.
Yeah, I didn't know whether you had seen any interpretation of whether the word potential modified visitors, residents, and businesses, or just visitors.
That's a little bit like the grammar in the Second Amendment about the gun rights. What does it mean to? I think we should. I think it's. I don't think anyone would disagree that potential applies to all 3. Well, I mean, it applies to current and potential. That's how I would interpret it. Well, sorry, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Sorry, I don't know, I guess is the short answer.
Larry, I think if you want to take a real narrow view, and you say, and you try to quickly define economic development commission, I think the first thing people would think of is business. I think that's what they would think.
I think what Larry is asking is, are we talking about potential residents and potential businesses, or current residents and current businesses, or both? Is that your question?
Yeah, I didn't know whether you did some research, and I thought maybe you had something that elucidated that.
No. My research was to find these words.
Oh,
The
okay.
upper right-hand box was the only words that I knew. The other three boxes are vote. I'm talking about voters' words. I thought the only 5 words that the voters voted on was the upper right-hand corner. That's not.
Okay.
They voted on all 4 of these boxes. That's
Okay.
the research I did. Sorry. I mean, I think I can say with a pretty good confidence that there has been no clarification of these words.
But
But I mean, I've asked, yeah, so
well, I can speak to that. I mean, I'm the only one who's been on the commission since its inception. And nobody has ever questioned anything about words or.
What?
I don't even, anybody ever brought this up so clearly.
Yeah.
Before.
and actually, to some extent, I'm not sure it matters, Larry. It's really just this is what the voters said. I think the only way to get the voters to clarify it is to ask them to say something else.
I don't think it matters until we come up
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Only impact-
I'm not arguing one way or the other. I just wanted to know if you had gotten any clarification. on
No,
it.
I have not gotten any clarification, nor sought it, to be fair. I mean, yeah, so. So I don't know, I don't see anyone, I mean, normally the way we kind of operate is people feel comfortable jumping in when they don't agree. So are we still operating on that basis? In which case people are comfortable that I can't see a couple, this is just Greta that I can't see. So does anyone disagree that we're still pointed in the right direction?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, maybe more so now because we have a clear definition of what's going on.
Right.
Right?
Let me just leave you all then with a worry that I have about our priorities and the concern that I have about what I think is going to become, a very tough search for funds over the next few years. Not just affecting these, I mean, affecting all of us in every realm, but that some of the things that within our 5 priorities, I wonder whether the benefit that the community gets and the benefit and the credit that the EDC gets, well, sorry, let me put it differently. I wonder whether or not the community's appetite to invest in the future would be higher if there were even fewer initiatives that were much bigger.
You always get back to that.
Right.
You do.
So whether or not if imagine that we took $300,000 a year, capitalized it, turned it into $6 million of debt, and spent $6 million to get a developer to build a housing development that would otherwise not be built. And then we went home for 25 years and reconvened in 2049 because we had committed all of our funds. Would people, before, as we were voting for that, as voters would choose between that and taking the money to lower our taxes from 23 million a year to 22,700,000 a year. In other words, an unrecognizable improvement. Would voters
There's gotta be
do that?
something else.
We don't know.
Well, I know we don't know, but we can't answer the question, but what I worry about is at times when there's some really tough choices that the voters and the select board and so forth are going to have, we're all going to have to make. Is what's the best way to make everyone digest the fact that you have to invest in the future? Because is it to do all of the things we're doing? And I think we've made real progress in focusing on what we do and in doing bigger things. I mean, we made huge progress, but I wonder whether or not we need to take it up another level. I don't know the answer. And I don't think the way to resolve it is to start a debate right now. I just want people to think, that's what I meant. I just want people to reflect on it. I think events are going to happen over the next few years. I don't have any inside information. I don't know how the select board or the voters are gonna work, but that's what I worry about. That I worry that, $10,000 for tables to solve the food problem is gonna be, which, by the way, on certain weeks of the year, we desperately need that. That's how humans behave, right? Oh my God, this is the most important thing. But then when, but is it really when we come to, to the pressures that we're gonna feel? So Mary?
Just in thinking about that, I think I'm hearing that there's kind of two pieces to this. One is what is actually the best way to impact the future? And the other is what is the best way to make sure that that's a thing that the community is going to support, right? Or to message it in that way. It sounds like there's kind of two problems you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not really about messaging. It is about what we do. But I think the what we do is partly a question of how big, like, for example, we can't have a $3 million initiative to buy picnic tables. Right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
There are only some of the areas that we have priorities and that we can do big things. Right? Do we need to, I'm comfortable with, personally, I'm comfortable with the areas. I think each one of them does what we're being asked to do. But I'm not sure, but I think some of them are more convincing to people who might need convincing that it's important to invest in the future. And I think scale and what we do, both. But what we do and how big we do it are elements of what will make people realize that you lose something really, really important if you don't invest in the future.
So
And
John,
they
Joe,
get to see it.
what are you looking for? Are you looking for a way of getting support from the community? Getting a sense of the community?
No,
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for us to think about this question whenever we spend money. And eventually to shape the ideas and initiatives that we put forward and that we encourage others to put forward. To meet competing objectives, we want to do 5 things. Right? We've said that, by the way, we've focused way down to get to those 5 things. So that's good.
One of them is kind of, I mean,
The childcare one, right,
Yeah.
might be, right, one of them, so it might be 4 things, right? So we might be down to 4, which is good. Every time we think about our agenda and what initiatives we're teeing up, and we listen to a problem that the community has and we try to respond to it or not. And we give a grant. Nothing that we've done, in my view, almost nothing, it has been not good for the community. But we're going to have a debate in the community about whether to invest in the future. Forget about the EDC. And I think it's going to be I think we're at a time when that's going to sort of be the defining thing for Woodstock for the next 30 to 50 years. We're either going to decide to invest in the future or not. Either way, the town is going to change very significantly. Because the people who want to invest in the future and can afford to are going to leave if we don't. And the people who can't afford to invest in the future are going to leave if we decide to invest because they can't afford to stay. The town is going to change. We've been asked to invest in the future. What do we do? I don't think we should change the 5 things. I think that all the projects we've done are good. I just want people to be thinking in this context. And it doesn't even have to be like next meeting, we're going to do something. Over the next 2 years would be fine with me. We're going to have things come to us. Let's just remember, it's not just that we have to invest in the future, but that we have to do so at a time when investing in the future is going to be really expensive because it takes away from investing in the present, from spending in the present at this particular time. That's really the point. That's really why I've raised this. I just want all of us to be worried about that, because every time we do a small thing, I get really excited about it. But then I go home and I remember that we just didn't do a big thing. Sorry?
like bathroom cards.
Like, exactly, like all the things we talked about today, every single thing that we talked about today, which I'm totally in support of.
Right.
It's very hard not to be. That's all. So I'm really just sort of,
No, there's no,
How do we solve big problems? that have a long-
who has their hand up? Go
yeah,
ahead.
so Deborah, go ahead. And just a couple comments and then we can be dismissed. Deborah, go ahead.
I mean, I think it's an evolution is what we're seeing, and it's an evolution of the town and the town's problems. And I think the things that we've invested in and we've decided on have been beneficial to the present and the future. The thing that you're looking at and the question that you're answering or that you're asking it because there is so many big things that are going on in the community that require large amounts of money. And, we all know what they are. So this may be an evolution, this may be a point in our evolution where we actually do need to change tactics. And so that requires a conversation that is literally about, not about the pieces or the 5 categories, but the decision that we are going to be this kind of catalyst to solve a big problem because we're going to approach it differently. And I think it's a really valid conversation, and it might, it may be exactly what the EDC needs to do now. But that's the debate. Do we keep going this way, or do we commit to deciding on which that we want to try to solve in a big way?
It's definitely a point in time. And the point isn't September. It's 2024, 2025-ish. So,
there really isn't any question in my mind. I mean, there's no other direction to go but to the future, in my opinion. I mean, to say we're not going to go to the future is like Henry Ford saying, this is the car that we're going to keep forever. And it's not true. And it's not realistic. It's not. And it's just, I don't see in my mind any other direction but to point towards the future. Now, as a group, we have to decide how to do that, how to get there, and by what medium and how we're going to accomplish, first of all, what the goals and how we're going to get there. But it's always going to be towards the future. It always has to be.
I agree with you about our work.
Yes.
But that assumes that our work.
Isn't that what we're discussing?
Well, I guess I am. I wouldn't call it message. Well, call it messaging. No, I wouldn't call it messaging. I call it what substance will convince people. In order to do our work, we need to be funded.
Yeah, we do.
And which means that the community needs to vote like they did in 9 years.
So where's the rub?
Invest in the future.
So where's the rub? What you're saying is we got to get behind the select board?
No, what I'm saying is as far as I remember, which only goes back to 1999, there's only been one vote once in which the community has voted to invest in the future. Only once. They've never voted to invest in the future in the budget process. Not once.
What was that one? What vote was that?
This vote. This is the only vote that I can identify where we voted for the future in any meaningful way. And so the community, want to say, I voted for budgets that had 2.9% increases since 1999. I voted for every single budget. So, I think that it's reasonable to conclude that the community, particularly at this moment in time, to use Deborah's phrase, I mean, legitimately should. There's nothing wrong with it. The people are going to have to make an unpalatable choice. There are no more palatable choices left because for 40 years we did not vote for the future, and so we now have to make a different. It's not a right or a wrong here. If you can't afford to invest for the future, what are you going to do? You're going to vote to not invest in the future. You don't have a choice. And if you want to live in a town where people do invest in the future, and you live in a town where people don't invest in the future, you're not going to change your mind about what you want. There's no good solutions anymore. We've been told to invest in the future, and I think now, at this moment in time, part of investing in the future, we have to think about whether the community will continue to support the kind of future investments that we're making. And we need to be confident. I mean, we're confident that everything we're doing is investing for the future. I feel comfortable with that. But I think we are going to be under real scrutiny to see whether or not the things that we're investing in the future are so convincing to people that they will vote to continue to do so. Because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to vote not to do so because they need to. there's gonna be some group in the middle that can afford to, you know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe I'm not,
Well, there's always gonna be that section. I mean,
I agree, but this is a moment in time, just to go back to Deb's thing, so.
yeah,
That's
but,
what-
yeah, it's,
Wait, look,
okay.
sorry, I don't mean to,
That's okay, but I mean, it's a very important subject. I mean, it really is. I mean, it means our future existence or not. And, you know, and the town, for that matter, existence or not, or which way the town's gonna go. And I think we're gonna be a part of that or not.
I agree.
So, you know, this is a very, very, very important discussion we're having here.
No, I agree.
I don't mind staying an extra 10 minutes and kicking it around.
Well, no, I think what we need,
We're just gonna make John lose this,
I'm not losing my bet. But
not that it was.
I think the way to, unless people feel, and we don't have to indicate this now, but unless people feel that this is not really, this is just sort of spinning our wheels and not really useful. I think then what we need to do is to sort of frame this discussion into a useful framework, because I think what I've just said isn't really, that's why I don't want to go too deep today.
Yeah.
It's really that useful to start debating or discussing what I've said. I think we just need to think through, and I'm just encouraging all of you to think about this, and I will too. How do we frame this discussion? What questions, what are our really what are our choices? What would we do differently if we were to do something differently? What are the optional? What are the different paths? It doesn't express a dissatisfaction with our priorities, but there might be some different paths.
The approach, yeah.
Like, we need to make sure that the decisions we're making are the best possible decisions, not just good decisions.
Right.
And that's kind of
Right.
what it comes down to.
Right, exactly. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I'm hearing is that people don't particularly feel, the possible exception of childcare, which hopefully we've sort of fully addressed. There's some indications that that we've made huge progress, had a huge impact, but maybe not fully addressed the problem. But in any event, you know, we're not uncomfortable with the 5 or the 4 priorities, but there's still another dimension of, so, okay. So anyone want to have the last word on this? Are you okay just sort of being, you know, reminded of this, and then we'll see where it goes in the future? But we won't drop it though. Is what I'm hearing is an interest in
Can't drop it.
continuing the discussion.
So not drop it.
So let's figure out how to frame it and see what, as a practical matter, what does it mean? And please give that some thought for you as well.
John,
Deborah,
it
last one.
just feels like it's so important that I think it's not on a list. I think it's a singular conversation in a meeting, as opposed to just being number 3. It's like we're gonna have a meeting about our approach, is how it feels to me.
And it could be scheduled other than the monthly meeting,
Okay,
I would suggest.
have an offsite retreat like in the Bahamas or something.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, really.
Okay,
No, I mean, not that,
I'd be fine with that.
I think it deserves,
Let's
you
not
know,
do,
its own identity
okay.
in a meeting.
Yeah.
I do. It's too important.
And I think one of the things yeah, okay. I'm thinking also about the select board and the trustees, but particularly the select board, because might be interesting to engage in this with some of them, you know, at some point, maybe not the first
Not the
step,
first
second
one, but
step,
yeah.
Okay, all right, so basically though, the reason I think at the last meeting, people were saying, well, wait a minute, we're comfortable with the priorities. I think that's because I explained the issue that I wanted to talk about, not in the correct way. Because I see an appetite for this issue, this way of explaining the issue that I was trying to raise the last time. Okay, so I think we're good.
Yes.
And it is 8:01. So unless someone wants to, what's the word when you talk filibuster? If someone wants to filibuster 29 minutes, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
On the table, this bet, or
Is there a second?
second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thanks, everybody.
What's this next week?
We are adjourned.
Hi,
Sarah. I'm actually